Hi folks, wanted to show you my new thing. This is my new, this is my idea of a proper bit of tooling for your brake lathe. This has a spring-loaded centering cone in it. It's machined out of billet aluminum. I put a shoulder here so that it's easy for you to reface this. Clean that and make sure it's nice and perfect. This is just a flat piece of steel with a regular piece of sandpaper tape right on there. So now I've cleaned that face up. I made that face so that you could clean this up like that. If this face is clean like that and your arbor is all clean, you mount this on your chuck, on your lathe. Back this up. A wrench for it. Switch out the tooling, come in like that, using the drum tool out of your brake lathe, putting that in that jaw and coming in and cutting a new face there. So because it's aluminum, it's going to cut really nice on your brake lathe. So that'll take care of this mounting face being perfect. I left a shoulder on there so you could reface this a whole bunch of times. The first cup is key to mounting the rotor on there really straight. You have to have a quality first cup. And in talking to machine shop guys, every one of them said the same thing. There's no such thing as cast high quality tooling. Pretty much all the best tooling is always going to be machined and usually out of billet, whether it be billet aluminum or billet steel or any exotic metal. That's going to be the key. You need something stable to keep the rotor, no matter what kind of oddball design or shape of rotor they come up with. You need something that's going to hold that rotor really stable. I like the aluminum because especially the billet aluminum. I got this one cup from somewhere that was billet aluminum that worked awesome, and I just fell in love with how the billet aluminum cut rotors. It really does a fantastic job. There's some other features about this I like compared to some of the other systems, like the various lathe chucks that people have adapted to fit on a brake lathe. The problem I have with those is it's really kind of awkward to mount that on a rotor and then carry it over to the machine and then manhandle that thing onto the machine. If it's a little rotor, it's not a big deal, but when you're dealing with 14-inch rotors, that's kind of awkward, and it's a good way to knock the chuck because you're dealing with such a heavy item. It's really easy to knock the chuck off of the rotor as you're installing it. And now you got this 10-15 pound chunk of steel falling either on the shop floor, making a chip in the shop floor, falling on somebody's foot, and like that's gonna hurt. Or it's gonna break the chuck. If it lands on one of the jaws of the chuck extended out, it'll break the chuck that way. This won't get dropped because it stays on the machine. If you do have to remove it to do something with it, you take it off and it's light and easy to deal with. It's under 7 pounds. So this takes care of the whole mounting and centering the rotor. This size does most of the cars and trucks, like light duty stuff with small holes, like this one. And then there's bigger stuff, like 4-wheel drive front rotors. Sport SUV rotors tend to have big openings in the front. Putting all of this together with a proper cup on the outside gets you all the stability you need for all these oddball rotors that we see today. And they got some weird rotors. There's no answer that's going to work for everybody that I've seen so far. This is as close as you're going to get, but it's not going to be the answer for the bigger trucks. I'm making another one for the bigger stuff, and that's going into production as we speak. We're going to have two different ones available initially. One is going to be I call it the under 6. It started off with a 6-inch hunk of aluminum and got machined down, and I think we're at 5 3/4. It fits in all the stuff we need it to fit in, and it has a really nice thick shoulder here. It's also an inch thick at every point all the way through it, so it's really going to be stable for you. This makes mounting a rotor a snap. You basically just take the rotor and throw it on there. You don't have to mount the rotor beforehand on the quick chuck and then carry this whole big old awkward thing over there. You just take that up there like that. Before you get it all the way tight, give it a good spin, and the chuck will find the center because it's a spring-loaded centering cone. Okay, so you don't have centering cones that are loose all over the shop. I used a heavy tapered cone, so that one cone replaces like 3 of the most common cones that always get lost. So you're no longer going to be losing it. The cup and the centering cone you're going to use on most of the cars stays on the lathe. Mounting the rotor on it is easier, simpler, and there's less chance for you to drop anything because you have a less awkward part to deal with putting it on. So it's fast, it's safe, and it's easy, and it makes mounting the rotor super fast. You combine that with the rest of the features on an old AMMCO that's been fully upgraded with an electronic power feed that feeds in both directions, so you can cut in both directions. A set of round tool bits. We can cut rotors really, really fast, even really, really big modern stuff without any problem. These were always great machines to start with. That's why they lasted 50 and 70 years. Upgrading it to this standard, I don't really see anything out there that's going to beat this thing any day of the week, let alone for the next 30 or 40 years. Anyway, thank you for your time. I hope you liked our new product. It's actually pretty cool. We put this together with a lot of thought, a lot of energy went into that, and so far it's worked admirably across the board. In every test we've put it through, it passed with flying colors. It cuts a beautiful rotor. Anyway, thanks for your time. Enjoy.